Welcome to Conversations Different, a podcast from the Santa Fe New Mexican about the interesting people, places, and issues of northern New Mexico. This is Inez Russell Gomez, and today we are talking to Bernadine Beyale, who will be speaking in Santa Fe later this month. Bernadine leads the nonprofit 4Corners K-9 search and rescue group and also advocates for raising awareness about the missing and murdered Indigenous people crisis. She will be speaking in conjunction with the film Lightning Unveiled about the life of Gomeo Bobaloo, an artist from Zuni Pueblo who died in 2022. Welcome, Bernadine. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you for having me, Inez.
It's really nice to talk to you and to learn about your work because you have a really interesting cross-section in the fact that you're in search and rescue and you're involved in raising awareness about the crisis of missing Indigenous people. But those interests kind of go together, don't they?
Oh, yeah, they definitely do. It's hard to not have one without the other, pretty much.
Yeah. Because one of the things you do is you actually physically go out and search for people.
Yes, we do. We have trained K-9s on our team that are, the forefront of this organization. It's pretty much why and how this organization started. And then we have certified team members, part of our organization as well.
Yeah. Now, I was reading about your origin story, and it sounded like you had a dog named Trigger who needed a little bit of help, like kind of channeling all of his great attributes. And when you took him to obedience training, you found out that he was a natural searcher.
Yes, he was. I did not know his capabilities. I did not know all these special skills he had, and we had to direct it somewhere, and search and rescue was his calling. So I didn't start this organization because I was already in search and rescue. It all started because of him. One day I had to make a decision because of what he was, the path creator was already taking him down. I had to decide, what am I going to do? Am I going to take the same path, or do I give him up to someone that can utilize him for the work he does?
Wow, that must have been a kind of not a hard decision, but an interesting one, because it's basically your dog was taking you to a place you didn't know you were going to go.
Yes, definitely. It wasn't an easy choice for me, pretty much, because I was like, I'm a dog lover, and I was like, I'm not giving this puppy up, and we
Right.
got him for my boys for a puppy. Never did I know he was going to take us down this path of where we're at today and starting our own nonprofit organization and carrying on his legacy.
Wow. I think it's really interesting when we listen to our animals and really to the universe. Sometimes we get help with our lives that we didn't even know we needed.
Yeah, it's very true. And not only with Trigger, I've had German Shepherds before him. I've had pets before him as a little girl. But it all started with him in the communication we have with each other. I really do talk to my animals. I have 3 dogs, or actually I have 5 dogs. 3 of them are my search and rescue dogs. And then I have 2 other ones, a little English bulldog and a French bulldog. So they think they're search and rescue dogs too, because they see the other 3 training. But yes, we all have some sort of communication with them. They do so much for us as humans.
Yes.
They're very spiritual animals, especially in Native American culture. We've been using them in all aspects of life. And, there was the world where animals were the ones, that could communicate.
Okay. That I think that makes a lot of sense to me. I just have 2 dogs now. Our third one died suddenly last year. He was old, but it was still kind of a shock. And it's just amazing to me how they know our moods and how they take care of us.
Yeah, it is. A lot of people don't I run into people every day that don't realize all the different jobs they can have, especially from knowing when someone has high blood pressure. You have some canines out there are doing more newer things today, such as, for example, there's this type of bird out there in the US and they're trying to figure out their migration pattern. So the one way they're looking for them is by their bird poop. So they train these dogs to find that poop out there. So very interesting what everybody's doing with canines these days.
Yeah. I think that's so smart. I know we had moved and my mom got knocked down by the dog and we were all mad at the dog and they took her to the doctor. This is like, a million years ago when I'm a kid. And it turned out she had early ovarian cancer. And because the dog knocked her down, they caught it at a time when they could cure her. And I've always thought he smelled something wrong with her and basically saved her life. And I know they're using dogs for medical uses in that way as well.
Yeah, definitely. There are dogs out there trained to detect cancer in people. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just fascinating. And Trigger got you into search and rescue. And I want to talk about that first search in 2019. I'm sure it's something you never forgot. And you were looking for the son of an elderly couple, is what I read. And he'd been missing 6 months. And what made you decide to go look for that really cold trail?
Well, first of all, it was understanding where this family came from. And it was a shock to me because both my parents were Navajo police officers. So, you would think if you call the police, they're there to help you, they're going to come to help you. So for this family to come and tell me that they were not getting help from law enforcement, it didn't make sense to me. I'm like, no, that can't be true. They have to help you. That's what they do. Until I actually went out with them those 2 weekends and I did see for myself the little help they received from pretty much everyone. They were doing it themselves. And then moving on from there, this family communicating to another family that we were able to help them. That's when I started learning about more families in the same situation doing this on their own. So, it's just, how can you not help? I have this knowledge and experience. I have this amazing dog. I mean, what else are we supposed to do? That's what I feel the creator has put us here on this path, especially with Trigger.
Right. You have to answer the call when people need you. And yet, how do you start a search? Because, this young man had been missing for 6 months and I guess they had an area for you to go look, but how do you know where to go? What do you do to try to, direct it so that you find something?
Great question. That's something we're going to have to continue teaching and educating families and the communities, because you can have two different scenarios. You can have a scenario where a family might have lots of information. They have evidence, they have facts, they have tips that my relative was seen in this area. There could be footprints there. They could have found their personal belongings there. Their vehicle could be there, or someone physically and visually saw them there and they were walking that direction. That's really good info for us to work off of, especially our canines. The tough part, the other scenario, is when families have none of that. So where do you start and what do you do? And that's very difficult for us. This family only had tips. So we worked off the tips they received. And it was all based of, hey, we have a couple locations we think you guys should look at. So here are 2 locations. But this location we looked in, it's 2 locations, but it was such a vast area. I didn't know where I was going to start. So you evaluate the terrain, you evaluate the environment, and in this giant piece of land, there was dumping areas. People drive out there and they dump out there. So that's sort of where we started. We started in the dumping areas versus non-dumping areas. and
Because
just
you
did
knew
what he
humans went there.
we don't know he was there. He was
Yeah.
somewhere in that piece of vast land, but my deal is let's check the dumping areas where vehicles have traveled versus areas where vehicles haven't traveled. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That's so smart because you're at least going where there's access, and then you go from there and follow your trail, and you were successful in that you found his body, which isn't a success in the sense that he's not still alive, but at least the family has an answer.
Yep. And I say we were very fortunate because that was 2 weekends, two full days on one
Wow.
weekend. So, I always think back to that. And what if we didn't find him those 2 weekends? How many more weekends would we have been out there?
Yeah. We have a search going on in the Santa Fe area for a young man who disappeared on the way home to his family. And they've been searching the family, and then they've got the community to go out and search. And it's just been really heartbreaking because I don't know that they're finding much evidence that he was around in those places. And we just, everyone just keeps looking.
Yes. We've actually been helping that family of Dino Valdez. So we've been out there a few times assisting them.
Oh, thank you. It's been a heartbreaker, and everybody is so worried and sad for his kids and his wife and he has a big family.
Yeah, it's really difficult. This family, as well as the 100 other families we've helped, they're really out there doing this alone. They have no experience in search and rescue. How do you wake up one day knowing your relative's gone, and the next day you're trying to figure out how to put a search together to gather hundreds of people and figure out where to tell them to go look? It's a lot. It's overwhelming. So that's part of our work in helping these families so they don't have to be out there alone, and we can provide some guidance to them and keeping things organized and just taking some of that weight off their shoulders.
I think that must be so valuable. I mean, it's been a shock to me, and I've covered stories like this before, that especially when someone disappears suddenly, there's a sense almost from law enforcement that they probably ran off or whatever, and they don't necessarily start the search immediately, which might give you a fresher trail. So, a week or two later, when they finally decide to join in, it's almost too late. And then the family really is on their own.
Yeah, they are. And I wish that collaboration could be instant.
Yeah.
A lot of people still don't know about us. And there's a difference between my team and a difference between New Mexico, who has search and rescue teams. These state search and rescue teams are considered resources to the state of New Mexico. That's where I started. I used to be part of a team that was a resource to the state of New Mexico. My only problem with that is when you are a state SAR team as a resource to the state of New Mexico, if the family goes to you for help, you can't help them. The investigating agency that's investigating their case has to reach out to the New Mexico State Police, Department of Public Safety. They are the only ones that can tell a state SAR team to go over there and help. And that's a major roadblock. And that's one of the reasons why I left my SAR team, because that was a roadblock I learned along the way. So starting this nonprofit, we are not a resource to the state of New Mexico, which means families, anybody can call us. As long as we're available and we have resources, we will go out and help you with our K-9s and our team. So that's a big roadblock today and a big struggle that I wish something needs to change within the law. And there is a law out there, and we're going into legislative session soon, and they do have a law out there. But again, it's defining state SAR resources versus myself, who's a resource, but I'm not a resource to the state of New Mexico, which kind of sounds weird. So when I say I'm not a resource to the state of New Mexico, makes it sound like I can't help the state of New Mexico. I can. I just don't have red tape. I don't have jurisdiction, So those are two things that need to be fixed when families need this type of help.
It sounds like there's just too much red tape to start the search as soon as it would be more effective.
Yeah, it is. And so going back to my earlier statement, this needs to be instant is we're going into year 5 as a nonprofit. And I always get asked about fines. How many fines have you guys had? How many people have you recovered? That number would be greater if we got calls faster. We don't get called fast enough. We get calls weeks, months, and even years later. So if we could get these calls faster and get more collaboration on the law enforcement side, we would be finding these people. But until then, we're still going to have this struggle.
That makes a lot of sense. You guys need to be a first resort, not a last resort. And on that note, we'll take a quick break and be back in a moment with Conversations Different.
We make renewable doable. We're positive energy solar for a cleaner, brighter future for all. Positive energy's the right call. Feel good about your energy bill. Help save the planet too. Your trusted solar company, working hard for you. Generate positive energy. Positive energy solar.
We're back with Conversations Different, talking to Bernadine about searching and rescuing for missing people. So in talking to you, you've gone from going out to help this one couple to starting a nonprofit to having volunteers. And you were saying you've gone on 100 searches. Is that about right?
Oh, more. We've helped over 100 families.
100 families. That's an incredible service. And you're stepping in at a place where our public safety departments aren't able or don't help for whatever reason. And I'm thinking about the area you operate out of, because you're out of Farmington and the 4Corners area. That's 27,000 square feet. How does that work? I mean, that's just an incredibly vast area.
Yeah, that's 4Corners, and our primary area is the Navajo Nation currently. We're not limited to that, but yes, it's very difficult that this land is so huge. I've seen so many beautiful places in this work, but to see beautiful places and know that something bad has happened in these areas is it's hard, for us and as a team mentally, that these awful things can happen out here in some of the most beautiful spots. But we do the best we can. It is huge, but that's why the information that's gathered, the investigation that goes into it helps so much, because it would take me forever to search every acre of that 2,700 acres out there.
Right. You need as much knowledge about whatever happened to the person. And it seems like I don't know the statistics, but it's like every other day or week you're reading about someone gone missing. And I don't know if people are just getting lost or if they're getting stolen or what's happening. In your searches, what kinds of disappearances are you finding?
Well, for one, I think since we've started 4 years ago, one of the issues was people still thought they had to wait 24 hours to report someone missing. But over the past few years, we've been educating that there's no waiting period. You report them right away. So that's why you'll see numbers growing now, because people are actually finally not waiting. They're doing the missing persons report. So that's why you see some every day, every other day. But the locations will vary. So Navajo Nation, it used to be more women missing, but now it's more men that are missing on Navajo Nation. And that's just due to the things coming in from the outside, drugs, alcohol, you have trafficking going on. So we don't have a whole lot of rehab facilities on the Navajo Nation. So there's a lot of things that are causing these variables to happen. So it's different. In the U.S., the missing women
Right.
is a bigger number
So
than the men.
there's just a lot of things going on. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and when do people just call you and say, we need help and give you information? Is that how it works?
Yeah, they'll tell me their story. I'll listen to it. I'll see if there's anything I can even do. But number one is, let's say you called me and you said, hey, my friend's son is missing. I'm pretty much going to ask that, well, I really need the point of contact for the family to call me so I can talk to them, because I'm going to ask all these questions about that son that you don't even know about. So I always ask people, if a family needs help, I need the direct contact for the family to reach out, because I'm going to ask quite a few questions to see if we can even help and understand the situation. Number one, we need everybody to file a missing persons report. Everybody has to do that first. So if you call me first and don't do your missing persons report, I'm going to ask you to go file a missing persons report first, and to ensure that they at least have that contact of a law enforcement person that's assigned to their case.
Okay. That's actually really interesting. I did not know that was required. And I think that's an important piece of information for people to understand when this happens, if it happens to them. So one of the things it seems like your group is doing is just letting people know what to do in a kind of a crisis situation to have the most favorable outcome.
Yes. Number one is we really need them to file that missing persons report, because there's a lot of things in place to help. So in the state of New Mexico, they have a turquoise alert for missing Indigenous people. So they could qualify for that alert. So there's a lot of things that could be working on that side of it, on the law enforcement side. On my side, if this case has the right information for a search to happen, for K-9s to be brought in, then that's when we'll start gathering our information. One thing people don't understand too about dogs is it's not like the movies where I'm going to pull up and my dog's going to jump out the window and he's going to go find somebody. It's not like that. Every case is different because the terrain is different, the environment is different. And then it's going to come to, are we talking about a live person, someone that went hiking and just didn't come back that afternoon? Or are we talking about recoveries? That we know this person is no longer alive, so we're doing a recovery search. So there's a lot of different things that go into it. But one of the most important things for families to understand is we need to understand that information is this good info to bring K-9s into it. Also, when your relative goes missing, yeah, I'm going to go out there that day, that minute. I'm going to start looking. I'm going to bring so many people with me. It's good and it's bad. And I know it's hard for families just to not do anything, but if that happens before a K-9 comes in, they can really contaminate areas, which makes it harder for the K-9s to work in those areas because so many people already walk through it. There's so many different people sent out there. And it's not impossible for the dogs. It just makes them harder to find that one specific scent they're looking for when they're out there.
Okay. So counterintuitively, if someone goes missing, you might wait until like the professional or the trained person can go out there instead of leaving your scent everywhere and confusing the animals later.
Correct. And that's hard, like I said, because not everybody knows about us, and we don't know law enforcement has that option. They're got to do their investigative piece. Do I need to go check jails? Do I need to go check hospitals? Or did this person really wander off in this location? So, okay, am I going to call backup to help me look? Or do I feel like search and rescue is needed? So I'm going to call a resource for the state of New Mexico, let's say Taos Search and Rescue. I'm going to call them out and have them bring their dogs to this. So it's really up to the officer to make those decisions. These resources are there. They just need to use them. Like I said, when families need help, why are we not all there to help? But it all comes down to law enforcement on their decision on what resources they're going to use. So, and they might not know about our organization, so that's also the hard part. And you might run into a law enforcement agency that doesn't even know about any search and rescue resources near them. So that's kind of how these gaps start forming. And then that's how families end up out there looking on their own. And so, but the more we educate our communities and our families about these resources, and they understand that, okay, there's a SAR resource. If we want to bring K-9s out, I remember hearing and learning that we shouldn't contaminate the area. We want the dogs to run out there before people start walking all over the land.
Yeah. Okay, that's really good information to know. And on that note, we'll take a quick break and be back in a moment with more Conversations Different.
This is Patrick Dorsey, publisher of the Santa Fe New Mexican. Looking to reach a wider audience and grow your business? For 175 years, the Santa Fe New Mexican has been the trusted voice of Santa Fe, with unmatched local reach in print and online. In addition to our long-standing, independent, family-owned newspaper, we have a full-fledged marketing team with the expertise to help you succeed in the 21st century. From traditional print to precision-targeted digital advertising, we have the tools to connect you with your ideal customers. Partner with us and see the results for yourself. Advertise with the Santa Fe New Mexican and unlock your business's full potential. Visit us at santafenewmexican.com/advertising or call us at 505-995-3852. Thank you.
We are back with Conversations Different, talking to Bernadine about search and rescue and missing people. She will be in Santa Fe in January, later this month, for the screening of a movie. And also, how is that event going to work? Are you going to introduce the film, talk after? Tell us what's going to happen.
So the event's going to be on January 24th at the Santa Fe Women's Club. It's going to start at 2 p.m. I'll be there with some team members and my K-9s. We'll be talking about the work we're doing, what we're seeing out there, boots on the ground. I'll introduce everybody to the K-9s because that's who everybody wants to see. And we'll answer any questions that anybody has. After that, then they will show the film of Gomeo.
Okay, so discussion, then lightning unveiled, and what do people usually like? What do they want to know when they meet you and meet your animals and meet your team members?
Usually, they ask a lot of questions about the dogs, the training that goes into it, what's their specialty. So I have 3 K-9s. I started off with Trigger, my black and tan German Shepherd, who did live find and HRD, which stands for human remains detection. And but we lost Trigger in 2024 to cancer. So yeah, and so I had Gunny. Gunny was my second backup dog to Trigger, and he's our black Czechoslovakian Shepherd. And Gunny came to me from the Mexico-Texas border. And this is one thing I'll talk a little bit there in Santa Fe is Gunny is actually trilingual. So he knows his commands in Spanish, English, and Navajo. So if you want to know more about that story, you got to come out on the 24th to learn more about it. And then we recruited 2 cadaver dogs. So you'll get to meet Moby, who's our black British Lab. And then we just brought a new cadaver dog onto our team last month, and his name's Rusty. He's a brown or yellow Labrador.
Okay.
But everybody asks questions about their training, what they eat, what they like to play with, what they're like at home. And then the other question I usually get asked is, why do we have so many people missing? And, what's going on out there? Why does it keep happening? And a lot of it has to do to jurisdictional gaps, delayed response, lack of resources, especially on tribal lands. And, families don't fall through cracks, they're pretty much pushed through them, so those are two common questions I get.
Yeah, those are good questions because the jurisdiction one is really hard. If you disappear on tribal lands, and let's say it's a pueblo that doesn't necessarily have a big law enforcement presence, or even in the Navajo reservation because it's so big where you do have officers, nobody's going to go out looking because they've got other immediate needs that they have to meet. So it makes it very hard.
Yes, it is. I mentioned earlier, we're going into our 5th year as a nonprofit, and year 1 was all about we're helping as many families as we can. We're going to gather data. Year 2 was about taking that data and sharing it with law enforcement and trying to bridge that gap between tribal law enforcement and families. Then year 3 was to keep building on those relationships because it takes a lot to trust somebody. It takes a lot for these families to trust anybody, especially law enforcement. So how do we help them become more trusting with each other? And so relationship building is big. And then in year 4, it was a lot about, okay, what are we missing in all the work that we've done? And a lot of it was more education and training. So now we're in year 5. Our goals are going to change a little bit this year for 2026.
Okay. So what are your goals this year?
This year, in the past 4 years, we're all about action. I don't like sitting in rooms and talking and not seeing action behind our words. So we're always doing something. This year, we're going to change our angle. You hear people talk about prevention. How do we prevent this? How do we prevent it? So that's what we're going to do this year is talk more about prevention, but we're going to do it within the schools. So we are going to start with one school and spend, let's say, for example, an after-school program. We're going to do an after-school program every Wednesday, and we're going to focus on different topics for the next 4 or 5 months, which could be what is MMIP, what does missing mean, what about situational awareness, learning about search and rescue, learning about the science behind the dogs. There's a lot of science behind how these dogs work and all the training that goes into it. So a lot of different topics in teaching these kids so that at the end of it, they put together a project, a presentation. So if you were to teach your peers or your friends or your brother or sister about missing, how not to go missing, then what would you put together to present to them? That's what we're going to do with this, because when I first started this, I was invited to schools to talk. So I'd be in a gym talking to a bunch of a big school, but
right.
And then I just see it goes in one ear and out the other. So they're not retaining anything. So we have to start figuring out how do we get these young kids to start retaining this information so they're not the next one going missing.
Yeah, that's going to be a great project. And it's so important just to be aware of where you might be in danger. I mean, the big solution is for people not to snatch anybody else. But until everyone becomes a better human being, having people be aware that, no, you don't go off with a stranger, or if you're in the place alone, maybe you take your friend with you. So you always have a buddy. So there's just things we can do to make ourselves safer. And that's so smart to teach kids that.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be a lot of work, but I haven't seen it done. So that's what we're going to do. And we're going to start small, start with one school. We're going to see how it works out. And I'd be very excited to try to start getting it to other schools. And, these days you see a lot of the missing flyers coming out from what I'm seeing on Navajo tribe is missing young adults under the age of 16. So, what's going on? And I just don't like that they get classified as runaways, because we don't know what's going on in their home. And, if a child doesn't want to be there and they keep leaving their home, then something must be going on. So why are we not learning what that is instead of classifying them or assuming something? So I'm excited about it. So I think it's going to be really good for our communities.
Yeah. Well, I think it definitely, the more we know about how to prevent something and then what to do if it does happen, the better off we can be and, maybe get to people before anything awful, truly horrible happens. So that's great.
Yeah, it is. I think a big part of it is we just don't sit at the dinner table or sit anywhere together with our families anymore, and talk about these things. Everybody's in a rush and everybody's got things to do that we're not taking time to have these important conversations with our families, our kids, our neighbors.
Yeah, no, I know when I grew up, everybody knew what you were doing. And if you did anything out of line, they called your mother. So there was a village kind of watching you. And I think that as we are on social media or looking at our phones or whatever, we kind of lose that. So that's going to be great for your community to do this kind of work.
Oh yeah, definitely. You're right. And as a daughter of police officers, they knew everything I was doing. So.
Oh man, you didn't have any privacy. Oh, how can people help you in your work?
So if you're available, come on out January 24, 2 p.m. to the Women's Club of Santa Fe. You want to donate to the organization, come on out over there, make a donation. If you want to make a donation for the dogs, and a lot goes into them, their food, their vet care, their equipment, their toys. Otherwise, you can visit our website, which is www.4ck9sar.org. And we have a donation tab there on our organization, on our website. We're also on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. So please share the work we're doing. Share what we're sharing. We're always sharing something about what's coming up next for us, what we're seeing out there. And we're sharing family stories that we have so many families out there that need help.
Oh, nice. So there's a lot of ways to get involved if this is something that interests you. And so Saturday, July 24th, Lightning Unveiled, which was directed and produced by Jaima Chevalier, will be at the Santa Fe Women's Club. And I think people are going to be very excited to meet the dogs and to meet you and listen to what you have to say.
Yes, for sure. January 24th. And I know one of the big important things was I was in Santa Fe one day for an event and some people came to our table. It was on MMIP Day and some people came up and said, "What's MMIP? What's this? What's going on? Like, what do you do? Why are you needed?" And I'm like, wow. But I don't know why. Every day I'm surprised on how many people I meet that know nothing about this crisis of missing people that happens every day. So I would also like to invite everybody out to learn more about it and why it's happening, what needs to change, and what you can do yourself for your own community.
Yep, that's very important. And on that note, this has been another Conversations Different. We'll be back next week. Thank you for listening to Conversations Different, hosted by me, Inez Russell Gomez, editorial page editor for the Santa Fe New Mexican. Our weekly episodes would not be possible without your support. We hope you enjoy them and keep listening. New episodes drop every Tuesday. Consider signing up for our newsletter so you never miss an episode, and while you're at it, consider subscribing to the Santa Fe New Mexican. Our podcast is available by visiting our website, santafenewmexican.com/podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Conversations Different with Inez Russell Gomez is produced by Matt Dalside and Ernesto Cisneros, published by the Santa Fe New Mexican, a local and independent newspaper owned by Robin Martin.